looking back again now, that was the best team I played against. That would have been Iniestas and Torreses and people like that.
Yeah.
So you've been exposed to some very good players playing against. One of the biggest influences on me probably really early was Glenn Roeder at West Ham. He wanted me to go and express myself, and that was unusual at the time. And he was probably before his time. I think you've always got to develop, you've always got to learn, and the game's always changing. Allow people to be their own personalities, showcase who they are, what they are, whatever that is. Dress, laughing, banter, pink boots, whatever it is that people want to be and express that. You've got to be yourself. So when you walk in, you've got to be yourself. But you can't pretend to be something you're not. I think you've got to be consistent, focus on the job you're doing, make the most of the job you're doing, and the rest will come.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Coach Gerald Lami podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Today I've got a special guest, a young up-and-coming manager in the game with a lot of potential, a lot of talent. He's won promotions already throughout the non-leagues. I would like to introduce today Daryl McMahon. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
No problem at all. Nice to be here.
Pleasure. So how you been keeping with everything? We spoke about it briefly just a minute ago, but how you been keeping during this time? How you been keeping busy?
I've done a lot of webinars from the LMA. They've been excellent putting on the different stuff, but from watching Brendan Rodgers walk to heads of the army in America, heads of different companies. They put on some really, really interesting stuff around management and leading. That's been excellent to watch. Trying to read. I've got 2 young kids that keep me busy. Yeah. So there's been plenty of stuff to keep me busy. Yeah.
For sure. You just spoke about in terms of webinar. How important is it for you to keep up to date, especially as a young manager coming through the game?
Yeah, I think it's amazing to have the access to watch people from in my own field in football and from different fields as well, how they manage different situations, how they manage upwards, how they manage different people, different strategies they use for their businesses to work, and little things you can take to use in your own industry. It's been good.
For sure. And you spoke briefly, you went onto the webinar in terms of Brendan Rodgers. Who would you say that you aspire to become? Or of course, you want to be your own manager in your own ways in terms of coaching and your managerial style, but in terms of modeling yourself around a manager or coach, would you say you have someone there?
I think obviously Brendan's a fantastic manager. For example, I was lucky enough to spend a week with him at Celtic about 18 months ago now, to watch how he works, and he showed me some of his presentations he's done to players, how he recruits players, watched some of the training sessions. So to have access to someone like him was amazing. Obviously being Irish as well, I think he's an inspiration to all Irish coaches and Irish managers. Someone like that definitely, but like you said, I think you've got to be yourself. You can only ever be yourself. I think if you want to be successful, I think you can't pretend to be somebody else. You can only be you.
No, for sure. And you spoke about him being Irish, and I know he was born in Ireland. But if you can just rewind the clocks back a little bit, what was that like growing up in Dublin for you?
Yeah, loved it. Loved it. Grew up on a very big council estate. Like probably like most footballers, to be honest. That you had your 50p football. You went outside as soon as the sun come out, and you went back inside when the sun went down. Playing football on the street. That's how I grew up doing it. I still do love football as much as I did when I was 5 or 6 years old. I've been lucky enough to leave school, and I'm 36 years old now, and I've had a career in football my whole life so far. So, and a lot of that was learnt on the street playing football. That love for it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's important that you're saying that, in terms of you've learnt a lot of skills, playing street football. Do you feel the kids nowadays don't really do that as much? Because again, you've learnt a lot of fundamentals playing in the streets. Nowadays, if you go to council estates or anything like that, they've always got the no ball sign up, or there's always someone just saying you can't play around here. Do you feel that element of the game is kind of gone away from football?
Sometimes I think the world's changed, hasn't it? I know for me growing up that we couldn't afford to buy game consoles or anything like that. So you got your, I'm a Man United fan. So for your birthday or for Christmas, you got if you were lucky, you got your Man United shirt and you got your football, and that was you happy as you could be. probably parents now are a little bit wary about leaving their kids on the street now compared to when they were in the 80s when I was growing up. That makes a difference. So I think that the scope now in terms of learning the fundamentals, I think, is more on coaches now to make sure that, you know, if you're coaching 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds, that the coaching session is not about you. You should try and make it like kids are playing on the street, so they're trying different things and exposing themselves to different things rather than making it a structured coaching session. I think coaches have to think about that as well now.
No, for sure. I agree with you. So going back again to your childhood when you started playing, you know, you ended up going to the under 16s, under 17s Euro Championships in 2000. What was that like representing Ireland? You know, that must have been a proud moment for you. But in terms of going to that sort of tournament, it's a high level tournament. You know, I checked up. There was the likes of Quaresma that was playing for Portugal. You had players like Van der Vaart that came through that system. What was that like playing against that sort of level of players?
Amazing. I think it was brilliant. I think, you know, like you said, you look at the time, you don't know. Ronaldo played for Portugal as well. You don't know who anybody else is.
Yeah.
You're all pretty talented kids, I suppose, because you represent your country. You're at an elite level at that age, 15, 16. Looking back on it now, probably you look upon it as an amazing experience. But while you were there, it was just like normal for you because you kind of been brought up in that kind of process that you were. That's how you were living. Look back on an amazing experience. I think I also played in the Youth Olympics in 1999, I think it was, in Denmark. And we played against Spain. That was probably, from looking back again now, that was the best team I played against. That would have been Iniestas and Torreses and people like that. So you've been exposed to some very good players playing against them and very good coaches and stuff like that.
And in terms of now, like now you've become a manager. In terms of looking at those players now, why do you think they've taken it to that next level, or why did they take that step into becoming one of the world's best players in this generation?
Very talented, first and foremost. I think most countries have that generation of players that are just phenomenal. I think Spain and Portugal at that time probably had the best players, which have come through now, and obviously Spain have become world champions and European champions with them group of players. Being given the opportunity to play is huge as well. Somebody saying to you when you're 17, 18, 19 that I believe in you, you go and play, you can play for this club. Which I think is massive. The confidence and belief you can get out of that is huge. I think those players really, them foreign countries at that time, really exposed their players to first team football early, where I don't think at that time we really did in Britain.
No, for sure. And do you feel that, you know, that mentality is kind of changing in the UK where, you know, younger managers like yourself have been given that opportunity in terms of developing the young players?
I think it's getting better. I don't think it's anywhere near maybe where it should be yet, to be brutally honest. Hopefully in the next few years, I think hopefully it will change and people will start getting more opportunities up the pyramid as well. Coaches and players, there's so many good coaches over here and so many good young players as well that there's been a trend to go for that foreign coach, and I think British coaches, English coaches, Irish coaches, we've all definitely learned off them outstanding coaches. I mean, we're so lucky to have Klopp and Guardiola and stuff in this country because they are the best. They are the best, and you've got to try and, you know, look, like you said previously, look at them coaches. What are they doing differently to what you were doing, or how can you learn off them people to try and aspire to be on the same level as them? And I think the players are the same.
No, for sure. And in terms of you know, your playing career, you've had different types of managers that you've come across. Would you say you've taken a lot of those characteristics with you into your managerial career? And if so, what bad parts have you left behind?
What did I take? I think one of the biggest influences on me probably really early was Glenn Roeder at West Ham. Glenn was an unbelievable. He was my reserve team manager at West Ham, 2000, 2001. Then he got the first team job. He was a huge influence on me. He was the first one that took a real interest in me in the sense of showing videos of different players, how players receive a ball here, and he wanted me to go and express myself. And that was unusual at the time. And he was probably before his time, really, because Back then, it was more like, just do what you're told. That's your job. Go and
Yeah.
do that. Whereas I thought Glenn had a really open mind and wanted to talk to players about what they thought, what they seen. He was still in control, but he wanted to have your opinion, how you felt about different situations. And I probably coach and manage a lot that way, because I feel that I haven't got all the answers. I can't. And if I'm standing in front of 16, 18, 20 players and my staff, you know, it's 20v1, and someone's going to have a different opinion. And if you're not willing to listen, open your mind and listen to other people's, you know, opinions of how they feel about different things, then I think it's foolish. I think ultimately, as a manager and a coach, you make the final decisions. But if you can have more opinions and more, you know, people feeding you information, then you can probably make a better decision.
No, for sure. And one question that kind of floats around is, you know, do ex-players, for instance, are ex-players better equipped to become managers rather than players or ex-players that haven't really played at a level? You know, you've played at a level. You've been, like you said, you've been around the likes of Glenn Roeder, so you've had that experience. I know, you know, you see Mourinho, who's never really the best player, but he was around the best managers at that time. So do you feel, again, your experiences that you've gone through being around that environment has equipped you again to get into the managerial position?
Yeah, yes, it has. But in my position, yes, because I started managing at 31. So at the time, I was the youngest manager in the country, I think, in the top, 5 or 6 leagues. Was I the most confident in terms of standing up and giving a team talk or directing a training session? Maybe not at the time. But because I could still, at the level I was at, I was one of the best players at Ebbsfleet at that kind of level in non-league. And I could still join in and do a demo to get my point across what I needed. And I could probably do it better than some of the players at the time, to be honest. So that kind of gave me confidence and gave them belief in what I was doing. So being a player helped me in that scenario, and just leaving a change room, I kind of knew the mentality of the group as well. So it allowed me to gain confidence and experience, but masking behind my football background, if you know what I mean. Whereas I think if someone like Mourinho's gone through or Brendan Rodgers the same as well, they've gone through years of coaching, 10, 15 years of coaching before they become managers in their own right, where I went from 3 to 4 years coaching at Dagenham Redbridge Academy, Tottenham's Academy, Ebbsfleet Academy manager to become manager. So my journey was definitely fast tracked.
No, for sure. And you said you started off quite young, you know, 31 years of age. That's very young in terms of managers. Now, was managing always part of your plan after you decided to retire, or was it just kind of a thing where you started coaching, you enjoyed it?
Yeah, I think it was just, I got into coaching, started doing my badges, was coaching, started off at, my first real job was at Boreham Wood. I was academy coach full-time every day. I was a player then as well at the time. I got promoted to assistant manager while I was there. So I would have been 27, 28 maybe, around about that age. So again, quite young. The manager at the time allowed me to take all the training sessions. So I did all the training sessions as well as joining in them, which was a great experience. I then went to work for Dagenham Redbridge for 3 or 4 years in their academy, working with predominantly the 8s to 12s and managing the 15s. Worked at Tottenham for 2 years as well in their academy. So I've done a lot of coaching and with a lot of good players, and where I was lucky, I was really exposed to different age groups very early. So I was doing, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, first team players, 8 to 12-year-olds. So I got to have I had to learn many different coaching styles really quickly to be effective in what I was doing. So looking, that wasn't planned. That was just by chance that I was exposed to it. But looking back on it, I think it was a godsend for me to be able to do that.
Nice, interesting. And again, like you've been through a lot of clubs, like you just mentioned. What would you say is the most valuable experience or learning lesson that you've learned throughout that time so far?
I have to say, going into Boreham Wood straight away, and they've got an academy where they've got 500 kids in it, something like that. So we would generally do 3 sessions a day, and then I'll do the first team as well. So going from no coaching to go from doing 15 sessions a week.
Yeah.
And then it was like, whoa, it was the work ethic in terms of how to get it done was a lot. And I just threw myself into it. And then from doing that for 6 months any job's easy now because you normally
Yeah,
do
yeah,
one session a
yeah,
day.
yeah.
You know, in my environment now, whereas
Hmm.
from that one it was tough and demanding. So that was fantastic to learn from that. In terms of technical different stuff, I think there's some fantastic coaches at Spurs. We had some really good players as well.
Hmm.
And I've worked with good people. Wayne Burnett, who worked at Tottenham now, who worked
Yeah.
at Dagenham at the time. Watching older managers like John Steele, going
Hmm.
back to other managers I've had, Alan Pardew, Harry Redknapp. Again, fantastic managers. Dean Smith at Aston Villa
Hmm.
now was
Yeah,
my
yeah.
coach at Orient. So I've been exposed to some really good coaches.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you said, in terms of Harry Redknapp, do you feel that sort of managerial style's kind of gone out the window a little bit? He's more of his management skills are impeccable, but in terms of, his style of managerial, do you think that's kind of gone out the game at the moment? You don't really see them sort of managers as such, the Neil Warnocks, the Harry Redknapps. Do you feel that's kind of gone out the game?
At the moment, I'd say it looks like it is, but I think
Mm-hmm.
Neil Warnock's in particular just been really successful with Cardiff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's another manager that would have got Cardiff up with one
Yeah.
of the smallest budgets in the Championship to get him up. I
Mm-hmm.
think again, you have Neil Warnock, or you have a young manager who's got limited experience. They might
Mm-hmm.
have got relegated from the Championship, but with Neil being confident in what he's doing, they've been
Yeah.
promotion. So I think there's got to be an element of, I think us young managers have to learn the fantastic skill set some of their managers have. Now, the younger manager generally is more of a coach now as well,
Mm-hmm.
more of a brother, a friend to players rather than that real authoritative figure that
Mm-hmm.
a Redknapp, a Warnock, a Pardew, an
Mm-hmm.
Allardyce, a David Moyes might
Yeah.
be, But I still think you've got to learn to have that trait
Mm-hmm.
in your game because for sure, Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola or Brendan Rodgers have respect when they go onto a training ground and will have
Mm-hmm.
that, that steel tongue
Yeah.
that them old managers have.
Yeah, no, for sure. And in terms of like your managerial style, I'm sure it's going to be developing over time. Do you feel that you've got a certain style of managing at the moment, or is it still part of your development?
It's definitely part of my development. Like I said, I'm 36 years old now.
Mm.
I don't know how many games I've managed, just
Yeah.
over 200 probably. So quite a lot probably for my age. But I'm a million miles away from where I'd like to be,
Mm.
and I'm well aware. I'm well aware of that. I think you've always got to develop. You've always got to learn, and the game's always changing. And I think you have to keep developing. I've got a way of playing, got
Yeah.
a way I like to play. But at the same time, sometimes you walk into a job like I did in January at Dagenham, and you might not have the players that you need to play the style you want, but you still got to win.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to adapt as well. You've got to be very adaptable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, for sure. And like you said, the way that you probably want to play is quite difficult to play in the lower leagues. How do you kind of adapt your different styles of playing in that league? Is it a thing where you just need to get the results done, or do you still want to get the results playing a certain way?
I like to play a certain way. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's just how I am. I believe you can get results at any level, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
as long as you recruit the right players, and the right, not even just the right players, the right characters
Mm-hmm.
to buy into and believe in what you want to do. Because sometimes the best players can't do what you need them to do, but the best characters can. Sometimes they're braver, more disciplined to carry out instructions you need them to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got to get the right balance. But listen, you have to win or you don't have a job.
Yeah, for sure.
So whatever style you pick, it's got to be a winning style. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there's many different ways to win games of football. It's just about how you then teach how you want that team to play, and the results tell everyone how good of a teacher you are.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. And you spoke about the likes of Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola. Of course, there are now managers around the world and a lot of coverage around them because they are around the best clubs. Now, for me, when you look at the lower divisions, I feel like those managers are the most creative because of the resources that they have. For the likes of like Dagenham Redbridge, the budget is not the biggest. Now you have to be really creative with your players, your staff, your training ground and things like that. For you, what would you say is the most challenging part of being a manager at a lower side of the spectrum?
I think it's always recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
It's always the players, because if you've got good players, you've got more chance of winning. So I think, and you've got to, like we said again, whatever your style is you want to play, recruit the players for your style. I think I see so many teams, and I've even seen teams in the Premier League or the Championship sign good players, but that player doesn't fit into how you play. So I think you have to really, really nail down what my right back looks like. What physical, technical, tactical qualities do I need them to have? And then go and try and recruit that player. And it might be a name no one's heard of. It might be someone no one's seen before, but you know the qualities he's got to suit your team. And I think you have to really identify what you want to do, and the recruitment's key, because you're only as good as your players.
No, for sure. And key point that you said in terms of identifying the right players. Now, do you have like a specific idea of each position that you want, and then do you kind of speak with the head of recruitment to go out there and try the best to recruit these players?
We have for every position. Yeah, we haven't got a head of recruitment at Dagenham. I have had at other clubs, Ebbsfleet and Macclesfield. So you got to do the recruitment or the scouting yourself, whether that's going to games, which obviously we can't do at the moment. Using tools like Y Scout, stuff like that, or just knowing the leagues. So obviously I know League Two, League One, National League South pretty well, having been in this kind of level for the last 4 or 5 years. So I tend to know people, players, etc. So that's kind of how we'll recruit this summer once we get going again.
No, interesting. And in terms of like your role, like you're not just coaching, you're not just managing, like you said, you're doing other things. Like what sort of roles do you do overall for Dagenham?
We do a lot. We do a lot. I think, to be fair, I think it's the same as most clubs really, especially at this level. You become, you're the psychologist. Like I said, you're the friend, you're the brother, you're the coach, you're the teacher. I think you got to create that environment where your players come into work and they feel safe. They feel safe to be themselves. I think, which is important as well, that you don't stamp on anyone's. Allow people to be their own personalities, showcase who they are, what they are, whatever that is. Dress, laughing, banter, pink boots, whatever it is that people want to be and express themselves. As long as it fits into the role of your team and you've recruited them, you know what to expect. But you do many different roles. You've got many different hats. We always say that as coaches at this level, that what hat have you got on today before you start coaching?
Yeah, no, for sure. And again, like you said, there's different personalities around the change room. Like for you yourself, how do you kind of, manage the different personalities? Is there a certain way, like you said, sometimes you have to let them just be themselves, but at the same time, it's having that authority as well. You don't want them to undermine you or anything like that. How do you find that balance of, letting someone be themselves, but at the same time, respecting that, you are the gaffer, you are the manager?
Well, I think if you don't respect, it's not just me, the environment, your teammates, you'll be gone. And I know, Anthony Atchipong well. I think Atch played for me, and Atch will tell you what I'm like in a change room. I was like that as a player. That when it's time to walk, it's time to walk. But at the same time, you have to laugh, you have to smile, you have to enjoy it, enjoy your walk. I think too many people now have a go at too many players for smiling and enjoying themselves. You're playing football, you're meant to enjoy yourself. I know you want to win, we all want to win. Doesn't mean you don't want to win because you're smiling. I think you've got to enjoy what you're doing. But like I said, when it's time to walk, it's time to walk. And if anyone steps out of line in terms of that, I think I'll put them back where they need to be.
Perfect. Now, in terms of like again, for instance, for example, the other night, Tottenham versus Manchester United, and you saw the mistake with Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, and then De Gea, and Roy Keane had some nice words to say towards the players. How would you handle that situation in terms of players? Are you going to go into the change room? Would you be fiery, or how would you handle that situation?
I think it depends. It's very easy to sit here and criticise managers or players or coaches. I do not know what Man United have done in training for what contact they've had, how long has it been intense for. It's a long time to be off, 3 months sitting at home on your sofa and then going back into a Premier League game with no fans in the stadium, different environment. And some teams start slow. I think nearly every team started slow. There's been lots of mistakes by different teams. I think, Roy's great TV, wasn't it, with Roy saying what he said, but at the same time, mistakes happen. It was I'm a United fan. It's a poor goal, but I mean, it's happened in most of the games so far. I think if you watch all of them, there's been many mistakes and teams are starting slow. I'm sure it'll get better as you go along. It's like pre-season, isn't it? When you watch the games now, everyone's just sort of sussing themselves out. Apart from Man City.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the steam. I'm an Arsenal fan, so yeah, didn't have the best of nights against them the other night. But yeah, we'll move on from that one. But in terms of, again, like, you went back to Dagenham Redbridge. You said that, you was working with the academy and you went back into Dagenham Redbridge to take over. In terms of taking over this season, I believe you guys are 18th at the moment in the league.
17th. Yeah, it's over. We finished 17th. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of, before the virus kicked in and everything like that, what made you take the job? Considering that it's going to be hard work to get them up or keep them up.
I was always confident we keep them up, because they had some good players. I think they were just like when you get a job, generally the team's underperforming. Simple as that. They hadn't won for 10 or 11 games. If I'm being really honest as well, when I took the job, I didn't really look at the league table. I looked at the players in the squad and thought, that's some very good players. I'd worked with some of them before. The owners are American owners, with Tim Howard, the ex-United goalkeeper, Peter Fry, Craig Unger. They're a young board. They want to get into the Football League. They're enthusiastic. They had that energy that you can feed off as a manager. And I think I probably gave them that as well, being young. And when I went in, I thought there's a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do, and I think we'd won the first two, but we win 3 out of 4, 2 out of 3 straight away. That got us up to 18th, 17th, and there's a lot of work to do in the summer for us to build on the club to get it anywhere near competing at the top end of the table, because it has been 17th or 18th for the last 2 seasons, but there is a lot of potential there.
And how do you kind of flip things around where the players' morale is down, maybe confidence is quite low, you coming in, what sort of things do you do with them to kind of get them back up and running?
You have to give them confidence. So generally when we went in, we showed them a couple of clips of videos individually and collectively of when they were playing well, what they were doing, how were they training at that time, how were they approaching training at that time. And then there'd obviously been a big lull in the sense of 10, 11 games without a win. Training. So I think my training is always about having the ball and moving the ball quick and getting the ball back quick. And I think the players enjoyed that straight away. I think the structure before was a little bit more defensive, and we made it more, we're going out to win every game. So don't worry about conceding a goal, losing. We're going to go on the front foot and we're going to go and stamp our authority on the opposition, which we tried to do. And it wasn't always perfect, obviously, at the start. And it was nowhere near perfect, to be perfectly honest. But we had some good results against, teams in the playoffs. Notts County, Solihull at home, we beat both of them 2-0. Aldershot away, which we beat. And that was the first away win since September, which was incredible, really, with the players the group had. So we just tried to give them confidence and make them enjoy their football. And like I always say, I think if you come into training every day and you walk out into the training pitch and you enjoy training, you tend to work a bit harder. Yeah. And you smile a bit more and you feel better about yourself because you've worked harder, you sweat more. I just think you can manufacture a good environment if you're clever with your training.
No, for sure. And you've usually taken over some big names. You when you took over Macclesfield, and you took over Sol Campbell. Even at Dagenham Redbridge was Peter Taylor. Now these are big names. Who's next on the list? Is it Pep Guardiola taking over City?
That might be a step too far. That one. No, I think, you follow it in the footsteps of two very big names in the game of football. But like I said, right at the start, you've got to be yourself. So when you walk in, you've got to be yourself. You can't pretend to be something you're not. This is me. This is what I do. This is how I walk. If you need to get on board, if you don't want to get on board, then you can go away. But this is where we're going. This is how I do it. And so far, so good.
But it kind of shows, obviously, in terms of your character, and people hold you in high regards if you're succeeding those sort of names, So I'm sure you're going to go up the ladder. But in terms of yourself, what's your ambitions of going further down the line? Of course, to get to the highest level. But in terms of yourself, what would you say your ultimate goal is?
My ultimate goal, I don't know, to be honest. I think I like anything, you want to manage as high as you can. You don't know where that is. No one knows where it is. I'm very young. I'm very conscious of that as well. I think probably when I started out as well, you win a couple of games, or I've had a good season. You think, right, I'm doing all right here. But then as you get a little bit older, a little bit more experience in the game, you think, right, you still got loads to go here.
Yeah.
It's a long way to get to where you want to get to. And I think you've got to be consistent, focus on the job you're doing, make the most of the job you're doing, and the rest will come. I think you can't look too far ahead. I think if you're looking at something as an ultimate, I'd love, like everyone probably would love to manage their country.
Yeah.
But that is a million miles away.
I'm sure you'll get there, mate. You know, again, it's part of the journey, and you know, just speaking to you now, I can see, you know, you're in the right place and just still always improving, and the results are showing as well. So I'm sure you never know, mate. It can happen one day, for sure.
Yeah, but now dreams do come true, eh? For
sure. And in terms of for next season, what's, of course, you know, trying to stay in the league and also, you know, push for promotion. How do you think you guys will go on for next season?
I think it's a very odd one because of obviously COVID-19. So no, we're hoping to start pre-season in August. We're hoping to start the season in September. I don't know what the landscape's going to look like in terms of recruitment yet, and the training ground policies around deep cleaning, contact training. I feel like we're still quite a way away from getting any resolution on how we can start safely, recruit safely as well. So once we get going, I'm sure the owners are fantastic. I'm sure they'll back us bringing in some players. We will need 5 or 6 players into the club. We've only got 12 or 13 players now on contract for next season, so we need to recruit. But we'll be looking to do better than we did last year, and look to be towards the top end of the table. That's for sure.
No, brilliant. I wish you the best of luck for next season in terms of the future as well. And thank you again for taking your time out today and just speaking with me. And I wish you again best of luck. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Gerald. Thank you. Thanks a lot, mate.